Welcome to Let's Talk Climate. I'm Ben Fulgencio Turner, the Director of Climate for Health at ecoAmerica. And I'm excited for this episode as we're going to be focusing on local government taking action to protect health through climate action. Sometimes it can feel like the focus on climate is all about federal policy and international treaties. And while it's important for us to take action and put pressure for the biggest and most ambitious policy shifts we can get at the national level and international level, there's a lot that we can do right on the ground level. City and county governments can drive significant climate action on a host of different issues, including disaster preparedness, resilience, and a built environment that is more sustainable and better for our health. We are excited to be launching our new custom ambassador training with NACCHO, the National Association of County and City Health Officials, to help guide local governments to both protect human health and our climate. This episode looks at just one example: the County and City of Denver and their Office of Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resilience. Today, ecoAmerica's Climate for Health Fellow at Colorado University, Dr. Kate Weber, will discuss these programs along with Denver's Chief Climate Officer, Grace Rink, and Administrator Bradley Patterson. Kate?
Hello, my name is Dr. Kate Weber, and I am an emergency medicine physician and current Climate and Health Policy Fellow at the University of Colorado. Denver is amongst a growing number of cities that are increasingly recognizing the urgency of action with respect to climate change. The initiatives they have undertaken not only ensure future climate resiliency for their citizens, but also have critical health benefits to ensure that all the people of Denver obtain the right to a healthy and clean environment. As a physician and citizen of Denver, I am very excited for these climate change initiatives that have important public health benefits for everyone.
I'm Grace Rink, the Chief Climate Officer for the City and County of Denver, and I'm also the Executive Director of the Office of Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resiliency. The City of Denver has been working on sustainability issues for over 20 years, and in 2020 formed the Office of Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resiliency to elevate and consolidate the city's policymaking and programs in this space. The agency's mission is written in city code, and our focus is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, help communities improve their resiliency to climate change, and to center this work on equity, ensuring that our communities that are most harmed by climate change impacts benefit the most from our policies and programs. Layer on top of that the fact that our agency was created in 2020, not only during the onset of the pandemic, when the inequities in healthcare were laid bare, but also right when the demands for racial justice rang loud after the murder of George Floyd. So when we speak of the communities most harmed by climate change impacts, we specifically mean people of color and Indigenous people, communities where the majority of residents have low incomes, people with disabilities and people living with chronic health conditions, babies, children, and older adults. Our guiding principle is that our policies and programs have to benefit them and also not exacerbate existing harms or create new ones. So now how do we do all that? First, we have set a goal to completely eliminate emissions by 2040. That's ambitious, and the path to it isn't completely known, but we do know that 70% of emissions in Denver come from space and water heating in our buildings and homes, and 30% come from transportation. So these are a big focus of our policies and programs. Denver is really fortunate that we have a healthy budget to support this work. In November 2020, the people approved a 0.25% sales tax, which raises about $40 million a year for our office, specifically to work on climate change. The way the initiative was written, there are 6 categories in which we can spend these funds: renewables and battery storage, energy efficiency in buildings and homes, sustainable mobility, workforce development, community scale climate adaptation and resiliency, and climate and environmental justice. The ordinance that created the fund states that we are to endeavor to direct at least 50% of the spending to the benefit of the people and communities most harmed by climate change impacts. Since the fund started collecting dollars in January of 2021, we have committed $170 million to projects, and 55% of those dollars have met that equity goal. We see that 50% as a floor, not a ceiling, and it absolutely guides us in how we create our programs right from the beginning.
Denver has historically high asthma rates that lead to missed school for children, missed work days for parents and adults, and ultimately lead to negative long-term health impacts. Electrifying a home, switching a gas-powered appliances to ones that are plugged into a grid improves indoor air quality and reduces the toxic fumes that citizens are exposed to. Furthermore, swapping a gas furnace for an electric source provides both heating and cooling effects. As extreme heat days become more common, this has critical value to older adults and lower income residents who disproportionately suffer the consequences of scorching days. Older residents often aren't able to sweat due to changes in their physiology. They, as well as others that don't have air conditioners in their homes, are more likely to end up in the emergency department suffering life-threatening medical conditions such as heat stroke and kidney damage.
Now, almost 70% of emissions in Denver come from energy use in our buildings and homes. And in the last 2 years, we have enacted strong policies to cut emissions from this sector. We have one policy that requires existing buildings to retrofit their energy systems, and another that requires new construction buildings to electrify right from the start. Electrification is a big focus for us for at least 2 reasons. First, natural gas is the primary fuel for space and water heating in our region, and it's a major contributor to climate change. Second, Colorado law requires our electrical utilities to supply at least 80% of their electricity from renewable sources by 2030. Put those together, and electric space and water heating will have a very low carbon footprint in less than a decade. There are also other health and safety benefits to electrification. Emissions from natural gas appliances degrade the indoor air quality in our homes, and they're also a fire safety risk, especially in the homes of low-income households where tenants often don't control maintenance and the spaces are more likely to lack proper ventilation. The risks are much greater. In Denver, most homes built before the early 2000s don't have air conditioning because it wasn't really needed for comfort. Now that the climate has changed and we have a lot more hot nights, less of a cool breeze coming through, and more wildfire smoke when it's really necessary to close our windows, people need air conditioning at home to stay safe and healthy. Swapping out a gas furnace for an electrical air source heat pump provides both heating and cooling in one unit and air filtration. All of these are reasons why we place such an emphasis on electrification. One of our most exciting programs in this space is retrofitting 200 homes of low-income families, 100 single-family homes and 100 apartments, to bring them all the benefits of healthier indoor air, cooling during the summer, filtered air during wildfires, and stable energy prices year-round. This work comes at no cost to households. It's fully paid for by our Climate Protection Fund. We also have direct-to-consumer rebates for moderate and higher-income households to help offset the costs of electrifying their homes and their heating and water systems when that equipment is at the end of its useful life. These system replacements can be really expensive, and they usually only happen to a house once every 30 years. So we feel it's really important to have this extra funding available so that consumers can choose the low carbon option when that one-time replacement happens to them.
As we're spending more and more time at our desks, getting outside and exercising is becoming harder and harder to do. By replacing your commute to the office, grocery store, or simply using a bike as your primary mode of transportation, you are taking important strides to improve your heart and lung health. Physical activity is one of the most important things we can do to combat obesity, improve symptoms of depression and anxiety, and thereby increasing our quality of life as well as longevity. Denver's new e-bike program is a great way to target both the primary benefits of increased exercise and secondary benefits of reduced greenhouse gas emissions.
Denver's a pretty car-dependent city. For the last 10 years, the share of people driving alone to work has stayed the same at nearly 70%. And the average distance of car trips that are not for commuting is only 5 miles. We want Denverites to have more opportunities to shift from driving alone in regular gas cars to more sustainable modes of transportation. Our first programs in sustainable mobility have focused on electric bikes or e-bikes. In early 2021, our first investment was to create 2 e-bike libraries for our essential workers. Unlike an app-based bike share, these e-bikes are free to use and can be checked out for weeks at a time. The intent was to serve low-income people whose access to transit had been severely curtailed by pandemic-induced shutdowns, and it continues to help hundreds of people today. After that, We created a direct-to-consumer rebate program to encourage people to buy their own e-bikes. We set up 2 tiers of rebates, a standard $400 rebate for any Denver resident and a $1,200 rebate for income qualified residents. And actually, it's really a prebate. Recipients receive a voucher that they then take to a local bike shop, so it reduces their out-of-pocket cost at the point of purchase. We then pay the bike shop for the value of the voucher. We launched the program on Earth Day 2022, which was a Friday, and by the next Tuesday, all 3,000 vouchers had been claimed. We were blown away. In just 9 months, we ended up spending the full budget that we thought would last for 3 years. And in that first year, nearly 5,000 people bought e-bikes through our voucher program, just about evenly split between the standard and the income qualified values. We were able to triple the budget, so now we can keep it going through 2024. At the end of 2022, we surveyed the people who used the vouchers to find out how they're using their e-bikes. We learned that they're biking an average of 26 miles a week and replacing 3 to 4 car trips. Now you multiply that by nearly 5,000 e-bikes, and you can see how a program like this can really lead to reductions in emissions from the transportation sector. I would also add that it's just really joyful to ride an e-bike. We're not measuring the health and wellness benefits, but from riding one myself, I assure you it's happening. We release the vouchers every other month. In the first launch this year in January, we had just under 900 vouchers available, and over 7,000 people started the application process online. Clearly, we have not hit the peak interest yet, so we're really glad to have the funding to keep this popular program going.
Due to structurally entrenched racism, practices such as redlining have left communities of color with less shade and canopy in their neighborhoods. This leaves them more exposed to the sun and thereby extreme heat. By increasing shade in these neighborhoods, cooling potential from 20 to 45 degrees can be expected. This will mitigate the prevalence of emergency department visits due to not only heat stroke and renal disease, but also pregnancy, lung, and heart disease related complications. Increased exposure to green space can also capture carbon from the atmosphere, thereby improving air quality and encourage exercise and improve symptoms from psychiatric conditions. Nature-based health solutions can help to address historic injustices and bring the benefits of climate action to vulnerable communities.
Hi, my name is Brad Patterson, and I work for the Office of Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resiliency in Denver. And I work on adaptation and resiliency and nature-based programs. Much of the available planting space in Denver is on private property, where traditionally the city has been unable to spend funds. However, the Climate Protection Fund can be spent on private property. So using multiple sources of climate vulnerability and equity data, we adapted our approach to this situation by instead fully funding trusted community organizations to go into the hottest neighborhoods with the lowest tree canopy and do these plantings. Community collaboration and high quality engagement is a top priority of this initiative in order to break down informational and economic barriers and truly meet residents where they are at to adequately alleviate concerns and offer support. Currently, we have contracted with 2 separate community organizations with hopes to scale this work even more over time. Each contractor will be planting a minimum of 350 trees annually for 3 years and providing establishment care. The first contracted group is the Park People, a tree-centered organization that has been growing our urban forest in Denver for decades, and they are planting trees in the low tree canopy neighborhoods in West Denver. The second contracted organization is Americas for Conservation and the Arts, a Latina-led grassroots nonprofit specializing in community health, and they are doing work in the low tree canopy neighborhoods in North Denver. We are fortunate to be able to partner with 2 very different organizations, and both are doing an amazing job. Not only are both contractors bringing different expertise and approach to the contract fulfillment, but they are also collaborating and learning from each other. Their collaboration has been infectious and sparked new collaborations between other small neighborhood groups who before never had the capacity to offer tree education and planting. We are already seeing these groups come together for joint events and sharing a hopeful vision of their neighborhood's urban canopy. One of the highlights of this program is the holistic engagement offered by each contractor. Residents are receiving attentive engagement that addresses their personal concerns, tree planting and tree care educational workshops, planting assistance, 3-year establishment care and replacement if needed, and each family that receives a tree is even given a participation award just as a thank you. The idea of this initiative is to build trust in the community and continue to engage over time. And so far, we've seen success. And in just the first planting season, there are 2 every year, 265 trees were successfully planted, showing right away that this model for community tree planting should be pursued further. We're very excited about it.
Thank you again, Kate, Grace, and Brad for sharing this work. The transformations that we need for a more sustainable environment have all kinds of incredible benefits. This is a city that is cleaner, healthier, and more accessible because of these climate actions. The economic benefits are there, and there are benefits to people who face historical injustices. We all have some local government that can take a page out of this book and devote significant resources to sustainability and resilience that will improve our health and our local area. And if you work in a local health department, you can help to drive this change through the new programs being launched by NACCHO in partnership with ecoAmerica. Engage with us online with the hashtag Let's Talk Climate, and be sure to subscribe and follow us for the latest thought leadership, resources, and episodes on climate action and advocacy. From everyone at ecoAmerica and Climate for Health, thank you for being here. Join us in caring for our climate in order to care for our health. Please be well, stay safe, and take action.